So poor Psyche was left alone, weeping and trembling, on the rocky mountaintop. But as she stood there, expecting with infinite terror the coming of the serpent, all of a sudden the west wind, whom the gods call Zephyrus in their tongue, blew a soft gale that carried her off her feet and wafted her, buoyed up by her spreading mantle, gently down into a deep valley on the further side of the mountain. There he laid her in a bed of most sweet and fragrant flowers, and Psyche was no sooner couched so softly than she fell fast asleep, for she was tired out with grief, and had not slept a wink the night before. When Psyche awoke, she rose up well refreshed and, though she knew not why, her mind was now full of peace and comfort. Then she saw at hand a wood of great and noble trees, through which ran a river as clear as crystal. And going a little way into the wood, she saw in the midst of it, beside a fall of the river, a stately house that she took at first for a king's palace. But when she drew near and plucked up courage to enter, for the door stood wide open, and there was no one to be seen, then Psyche guessed that no mortal had built this dwelling, but that it was the pleasure house of some god or fairy. For all the rooms had carved ceilings of ivory and citron wood, resting on golden pillars, the walls were panelled with silver, at all the doors golden lions, or bears, or leopards, stood rampant, wrought to the life, so that they seemed about to spring upon you. And all the floors were covered with a parquetry of precious stones of diverse colours, forming such exquisite patterns and pictures that a man might bless his good luck who set foot on so rare a pavement. But not only the floors, but all the wainscoting, cornices, doors, and furniture of the house, gave forth a light like sunshine, so richly they were inlaid with gems and pearl and gold. There were treasure chambers too, heaped with unimaginable wealth, but what seemed strangest of all to Psyche, they all lay open and unlocked, with never a bar or bolt to keep out thieves. Now while she wandered from room to room, delighted with all she saw, a voice sounded in her ear. She turned quickly, but could see no one. Yet the voice spoke on. "Mistress," it said, "why do you marvel at these riches? Behold, all you see here is at your command. Be pleased to enter your bed-chamber and repose yourself, and order your bath as you like it, whether warm or cold. For we, whose voices you will hear, are your servants, and ready to do your pleasure. And while you rest and bathe, we will prepare royal dainties for your supper." Then Psyche knew that some divine enchantment was at work, so first she rested a while on the ivory bed. Then she took her bath and dressed herself in the gold-broidered white robe that was laid ready for her, casting aside her mourning garb. And then she saw a table set before her in the chamber, and a chair for her to sit in. And when she sat down in it, immediately all sorts of delicious dishes and choice wines were served to her in wondrous fashion, for each course was brought and removed by persons whom she could not see, though she heard their voices round her. After the last course, someone came in and sang, while a harper played on his harp, but still she saw no man in the room. Yet that symphony so thrilled in her ears that although she could see no one, it seemed as if she were among a crowd of listeners. When this sweet music ended, Psyche went to bed, for it was now night and she was weary. But she was afraid to sleep, for now it came into her mind that this was her wedding night and that this enchanted palace must belong to her husband the serpent. And presently, as she lay awake in the darkness, the bridegroom came, but no serpent was he, for he put arms about her, and whispered such tender words of love that she forgot her fears and sank into a dream of bliss. When she awoke, it was broad day, and she was alone in the chamber, and now for a long while Psyche lived happily in this lordly pleasure house. By day she found ever delight in the treasures around her, for every day she lighted on some lovely and precious thing that she had not seen before, and whatever she wished for, either beautiful clothes, or flowers, or rare fruit and dainties, were instantly brought at her command by her invisible servants. But her greatest solace was the playing and singing of the unseen musicians, for that took away her feeling of loneliness. So the days passed, and every night, her husband came to her, whom she soon loved with her whole heart. But she never saw him, for he always went away before daybreak. Meanwhile, Psyche's father and mother remained in great affliction, and her two sisters, having heard of her supposed death, came from their homes to visit and condole with them. That night, Psyche's husband said to her, "My sweet wife, I must warn you of a great danger that threatens you. Know that your two sisters, thinking you are dead, have come to mourn with your parents, and tomorrow and the next day they will climb the mountain and bewail you there. But if you hear them lamenting, beware you do not call to them, nor let them catch sight of you, for if you do, it will bring great sorrow to me and utter ruin to yourself." Psyche promised obedience, and all the next day she kept indoors, lest she might be tempted by hearing her sisters' voices if she went out. But her heart yearned to see them again, and presently she began to think it very hard that she must not, nor even let them know she was alive, when they were there, close by, and in such grief about her. For in her simplicity, she never doubted that they loved her as dearly as she loved them. And now it came over her how lonely she was, and she burst out crying. "Oh, oh," she sobbed. "I am the most miserable girl in the world. What will become of me? Am I to be always shut up in this prison and never see a human face again? Forbidden even to see my own dear, unhappy sisters. Oh Jay, it is too cruel." All day Psyche cried and fretted. She would not eat, nor take her bath, nor hear music, and when her husband came at night, he found her in floods of tears. Nor would she be comforted by his kisses and fond words. Then he sighed, and said, "Is this how you keep your promise, my beloved? What, have you been crying all day, and cannot leave off even in my arms? Well, do as you will, take your own way, and when it has led you to ruin, remember I warned you, and be sorry, too late." "Ah, do not think me wilful," said Psyche, pleadingly, "but indeed, I shall die unless you let me see my sisters again, just this once. I only want to comfort them and send word to my dear parents that I am not dead. What harm can there be in that? Pray, if my sisters come again tomorrow, let your servant Zephyrus lift them down into the valley, so that I may talk with them and show them this lovely house." "They will come," he answered, "and you shall show them your house and give them as much gold and jewels as you please to take home with them. For the truth is, I cannot bear to see you unhappy. But, my darling wife, if you have any love for me, take heed of one thing, do not let these women's evil counsels persuade you to look on my face, lest your curiosity part us two forever." "Sweet husband," cried Psyche, overjoyed that her wish was granted, "I had rather die than be parted from you, for, whoever you may be, I love you like my own soul. I could not worship you more if you were the god of love himself. So I will heed your warning, never fear." And then, hearing him sigh again, she kissed him tenderly and gave him loving thanks for yielding to her prayers, calling him her lord and husband, her sweetheart, her joy, and her comfort, all so sweetly that he took no more thought for the morrow, though he knew what it would bring forth.